Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining me on this Wednesday, July 13th in the Locker Room. I'm Alan Locher. Actor John James is best known to television audiences for playing the dashing Jeff Colby on the Aaron Spelling hit primetime series Dynasty and its spinoff, The Colbys. John's career began with the role of Tom Bergman on Search for Tomorrow in the 1970s. In addition to his role on Search, John appeared as Jeff Martin on All My Children and Dr. Rick Decker, where we met on As the World Turns. It is such a pleasure to welcome John James to the Locker Room.
Hello,
John,
Alan.
hello, my friend. And,
How are you?
I am well, and yourself.
I'm excited to be here with you, and I was thrilled to get your email. You said, "Do you remember me?" I said, "Come on, Alan. We tried to get the rights to As the World Turns when they finished it. Remember? Of course, I remember."
We did it, and daytime fans would be thrilled if we could get those rights. But
Yes.
I forgot. I don't know if we talked about this during that time, but I showed you this backstage. We met in May of 1987. There I am in a polyester suit as a page for ABC. I don't recall where that was in New York City, but you were there.
I do.
You
Now
did.
I see it again. Yes, because I have a picture of my now wife and I in the back of a limousine, and it was during the ABC rollout of their fall season, and it was, I believe, at the Museum of Natural History, possibly.
That very well could be
a major
Wow.
venue, and I remember that burgundy tie and suit. So that's why I was there in New York.
I love it. I love it. Well, let's go back to New York. Search for Tomorrow was one of your first roles on television. What do you remember about auditioning for the role of Tom?
Well, I tell a lot of young actors how different it was back then. And I mean, self-taping today, for those of you who are in business or thinking about getting into it, is a wonderful convenience because you don't have to leave your home, you don't have to drive 2 or 3 hours and to a casting office. So I had this audition for Search for Tomorrow. My agent set it up, and
I know.
hang on, I'm just turning my phone off here, and and I got Siri. Anyway, so I went down and I met the casting director, and the first thing she said is, "You're way too old for this role, way too old." And I said, "Have you been to high school lately?" And I said, "That's how kids look." I said, "My best friend has got a beard, for gosh sakes." Anyway, I talked myself into the role. I became a salesman, not only an actor. And that's one of the nice things I liked about meeting casting directors back then. But that
Do you
was my
remember who the
first.
casting director was?
I don't. I can't. I wish I could. I mean, I probably could find
I
out.
wonder well, no, I wonder because it was Search for Tomorrow, which was Procter and Gamble, I believe, and I wonder if it was Betty Ray. Do you know that?
That
Does that
sounds
name sound familiar?
yeah.
I don't. I wonder. Yeah, just wondered. Yeah, I heard that story. I love it. We all have to promote ourselves.
Well, that's when you're face to face, you become a salesman and say, Plus, you also get some feedback that if you're not on track with the role that they're looking for, you can make an adjustment with the casting director. But yeah, that was my first paying job as an actor, and I was at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. At the time, it was only 2 years, and I was halfway through my second year. And I went to Mr. Cunningham's office, and I told him that I'd gotten a job, which was strictly forbidden, even to audition while you were in school. And I said, "Well, I have this job, so can we work out something?" And he said, "No, I'm sorry. Goodbye." And I said, "Really?" I said, "Well, okay." And they didn't even let me graduate. But the funny thing is, when Dynasty became the #1 show on television, I was on fire with Robert Redford and Jason Robards. But yeah, I mean, soap operas are such a wonderful thing. They really are. I mean, my wife and I are now watching a Netflix series out of Turkey, and I think we're into the 100th episode. And I think growing
What show? Do you know the name?
Black Money Love.
Okay.
On Netflix.
I love a good recommendation.
Yeah,
And if
it's
you're
really
watching
good.
100 episodes,
It's
it's got to
pretty
be
good.
okay.
And so what I loved about the soap opera format is I remember growing up and my mom watching, oh my gosh, she would watch Love of Life, then she'd watch Search, then she watched The Young and the Restless every day. And I grew up, and it was like if they weren't on television, they were part of the family because every day they came into your home. However, the experience of making a soap, as you know, Alan, is incredibly difficult. At the time, Mary Stewart, who had started on Search for Tomorrow, I believe, back in the 50s.
Joe, she played Joe.
Correct. Well, we were not live like in the early days. We were on tape. However, Mary liked that energy and that we almost were like live. And it was like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we had a half hour. And between scenes, I remember the cameras rushing down to the other end of the stage, setting up, getting lit, actors getting punched in, and 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There were teleprompters, though, funny enough. There were teleprompters, and they had this yellow paper, and it kind of scrolled. But yeah, everybody in New York. And Alan, how many back in the 70s?
There were like 15 done in New York.
I thought there were. I was going to say 14, but I didn't think there were that many. But there were.
I mean, 10 to 15, definitely.
Yeah.
And now 0.
It's amazing. And every actor. I mean, Kevin Kline was my roommate in my dressing room. I'd go to the commissary at CBS on 57th Street, and Chris Reeves was doing Love of Life. Kathleen Turner was doing The Doctors, and Chris Goutman started on Search for Tomorrow, where we became friends.
Crazy.
And certainly, I mean, how odd it is that when I left the show, his now wife of, I don't know how many years, 40 years almost, Marcia McCabe came on. And she was also, believe it or not, at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts with me. Isn't that a weird?
I didn't realize that. Going back, I was going to ask you, when you spoke of the American Academy, would you make the same decision today to leave?
Yes, absolutely. Because
yeah, I thought so.
The name of the game was, it's so difficult to make a living as an actor at any age, because there's just so many people want to do that. For one role. It's not like there's and I took that opportunity. And the funny thing is that the soap opera experience is such great training for actors, because you've got to think on your feet and you've got to digest material and put a performance out, sometimes 5 days a week. I got to tell you my worst experience, Alan.
Oh, I love that.
As an actor, not in a bad way, but in a way where I thought I was going to lose my mind. And it was on your show, As the World Turns.
Oh.
Playing my most favorite character I've ever played in all my 40
Oh, I
years.
love that.
Well, I got a job. Listen to this. It's only been about 8 months. It's airing next month on.
Oh yeah, I was going to ask you.
On Tales, and which is on BET, and I play this crazy racist cop, and it's really pretty good, and it's all guest stars. There's no it's not like a reoccurring show. So I asked Timothy. I said, I used to watch you as Rick Decker on As the World Turns, and I knew you could deliver for me on this role. Ha! I said, Rick Decker? Oh, shoot. I forgot to. I may get up in the moment and get my Rick Decker, Illinois license plate. But anyway.
Did you call Goutman and tell him?
That
about.
No, I haven't. I'll send him.
Yeah, he's going to love that.
that Rick Decker role, I got to tell you, I had more fun with that role because I think probably Chris was writing it, maybe, but it was really wonderful. And Chris called me and said, John, I know you don't want to do another soap. It's limited, but I'd really like you to do this. So we did. And
but go back. What did he say about Dr. Rick?
Well, he said you're going to play a serial killer doctor. I said, what? A serial killer doctor. I said, how's he killing me? He said to me, with injections. So I thought, oh my gosh, okay, I'll do it. Anyway, I mean, he was so quirky, and the scenes I had were so really bizarre, but wonderful. And I was in Jamaica, I think it was Jamaica, with the family down there for vacation. And As the World Turns was huge, apparently, in Jamaica. Oh, you should have seen, people were like flipping out. Rick Decker. I'm on the lam. I'm on the lam. Don't say anything. I'm on the lam. All right. Don't let anybody know. But the worst experience I've ever had as an actor was playing Rick Decker. As you know, and you probably have talked about this, Alan, toward the end of the soap opera days at P&G, budgets became tighter and tighter and tighter. And suddenly we were doing 5 shows in 4 days, which we kind of did. And then, rather than going in sequence in the script to make things smoother and even faster, if you were going to be working in the lobby of the hotel, of the hospital, we would shoot the next 4 or 5 shows there. It's already lit. It's already dressed. The actors are there. And it just so happened that hospital lobby scene was Rick Decker's kind of moment when people realized it was him. Al and I had 32 pages of dialogue. And it was all me, people watching and me speaking and blah, blah, blah. So I'm up to about page 20, right? And they say, okay, good. Now let's go to episode, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. And I start speaking and so, whoa, hang on. Didn't I just say that? Yes, you did, John. Chris over there. Yes, you did. No, it's the director. He said, but this is a new show, so it's a recap of yesterday. So you say it again. Oh, okay. I mean, I literally thought I was losing my mind. And I said, how can I do it? But I did it. Somehow I did it. 32 pages. I mean, the script is only 40 something. It was unbelievable. But yeah, it was great times. Great times.
What do you remember about working with Don and Marie and Colleen?
Oh, Colleen. I mean, that's some of my favorite scenes was working with Colleen because she's got this terrific, I don't know, she's wonderful to, you bounce off her. And I remember I had a couple of scenes with her that she was looking at me like, you are an odd fellow. And it was just beautiful. It was just beautiful. Yeah, everybody. I mean, I loved everybody on the show. They were terrific. And I didn't like going to Brooklyn.
Yeah, I don't think they did either.
Nobody does. I mean, not anything about Brooklyn. It's just that it took an hour to get to Brooklyn.
Yeah, it's a hard commute. It's a hard commute. Yeah. What was it like to work, on Search for Tomorrow with Chris Goutman and then have him be the executive producer of World Turns?
I have a saying, there's only, like you and I, there's only 12 people in show business. I mean, literally, the circle is very small when you actually make a living in this business. You know everybody else somehow or connected. Well, when I went out to do Dynasty, the pilot, for the second time, because they had fired George Papard, the actors' strike hit. So Chris and I did nothing but go out and drink and party every night for weeks because Chris was out there Chris was out there to do the pilot for Cheers. And Kathleen Turner was out there to do Body Heat. And all of us couldn't do anything. And I said to my agent, I said, oh, can I come back to New York? I'm just sitting here. And they said, that's going to be over next week. Well, I think the strike went on. I don't know how long. It went 6, 7, 8 weeks or something. It was a long strike. So I remember watching Chris shoot the pilot of Cheers, which he was in.
Wow. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. And he went back to New York and he started directing, I believe, on Edge of Night.
Oh, maybe, yeah. Edge of Night, All My Children. Yes.
Edge of Night, yeah, I think.
Yeah.
And I mean, we kept in touch. We had dinner. I mean, one of my favorite stories with Chris was when Dynasty was the #1 show. We went and saw a play together. And I was with my girlfriend at the time. I think it was Glengarry Glen Ross. So the play's over and we're exiting the theater out onto whatever street it was. And the lobby's jammed up with paparazzi and stuff like that. You know, ushers are getting pushed down and it's just kind of a nasty scene. And I'm looking, I said, what are they taking? Who do they want? And suddenly, there he is. And they run towards me.
Wow.
And I mean, Dynasty was the number. This is a Dynasty's height.
Yeah.
And one of the ushers grabs me and says, come on, we're going to take you out the back entrance, out the stage entrance, out the back. Chris grabs me. He says, let's go. So we go out. We come around the side. There's a whole bunch of people milling around. And we come out on the street and we go down to Broadway, down to 8th Avenue. And they say, there he is. And they all rush toward me. Now, the funny thing is, you know, in New York, when there's a crowd, people wonder, why is there a crowd? So they go investigate the crowd. So suddenly there's this huge thing around it. I have no idea how we got a taxi. Chris got a taxi, got me in there, took me to Joe Allen's.
Yeah.
Took me to Joe Allen's. And Chris said, look, just can you watch the door and don't let anybody in for the next half hour. And that was Chris. I was with Chris. But yeah, that was a crazy night. And that's, I mean, when Dynasty was big, that was big.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, so I want to go back. You grew up in Minneapolis and your dad was a radio personality, right?
Correct. Yes. He was in New York on WABC, which at the time created Top 40. They actually created that format of Top 40. And he's actually in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as a DJ. And he was called the Morning Mayor of New York. His show was from 6 to 10. And it was AM radio. And I actually tried to get something off the ground about those 10 years that he spent there through the 60s, a series. And it's based on a New Yorker magazine article. And yeah, that was my father.
Huh. Well, and what prompted your desire to go into this business, into acting?
I always, when I was growing up, I had my brother and sister do stuff that I had written. And I was too shy to do it myself, but I'd have them act it out. And I knew I wanted to be an actor. I didn't want to be in radio. I just grew up loving old films. I'm very much an old romantic. I should have been around in the 30s or 40s as an actor. I just loved older movies. And I also loved, or still do, really bad 50s sci-fi movies. That's one of my favorite things.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I just loved the show business aspect of it. My father was, part of it, and in a different way. And then my best friend in high school, his father actually suggested this American Academy of Dramatic Arts, where I went for the summer program to see if I even liked it, and I just did, and I fell into it. And I got, I think, Search for Tomorrow at the age of 20 or something like that. 20, maybe 21. My first job.
That's incredible. And then you were part of the ABC talent search.
Correct. After about 2.5 years on search, I was getting a little itchy. I mean, I was ambitious. I didn't.
Well, at that age, you should be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in retrospect, you look at somebody like Peter Bergman, who's been working steadily for 40 years, who works as an actor every day, or not every day.
But close.
And Peter actually went to the American Academy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I thought, I'd like to try something. And they said, John, we're not going to renew your next cycle. I said, okay, fine. So I'm out of a job. Shortly thereafter, funny enough, because I wouldn't have gotten Dynasty, my agent called me and said, I'd like you to meet Joyce Selznick. I said, Selznick? Yes. She said, yeah, she's of the Selznick family. She's a casting director working for ABC for a program that ABC is putting together where they're going to try and find 10, 15 young actors and put them under an old style studio contract where they pay you for the year. Paid me pretty good money, actually, back considering it was 1979. So you can live decently, and they will try and find you a show. And I said, oh, God, I heard about that. I said, every actor in town is going to go there. I mean, God, go. I said, all right. So I walked in the door and, I said, hello. She looked up and said, what are you doing next Wednesday? I said, nothing. What I'm doing today. She said, how would you like to go to Los Angeles with me? I said, what? And I was signed. And that first group was Al Corley, who played Stephen.
Yep, Stephen Carrington.
Tom Hanks came out of New York on that program and did Bosom Buddies. Ann Gillian, Donna Mills, who now I guess is recently or just getting divorced from Dan Aykroyd.
Donna Dixon.
Donna Dixon.
Yeah.
And that's what brought me out there. And my first screen test, and it was a screen test. I mean, it was like old Hollywood style stuff. And I wish I knew the actor who was playing Blake, because they actually hired somebody I recognized. He was never up for the role, but they had a full set, dressed, lit, single camera, Panavision, 35 millimeter. And I auditioned for Stephen. And Al Corley eventually got the role, and I got Jeff Colby. But that's what brought me out to New York.
So your screen test was with the original Blake, or the Blake they hired,
Well, no, my screen test was just with a character actor, but he was a well-known character actor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so then I went to San Francisco to shoot the pilot with George Papard as Blake. And that didn't work out.
I didn't remember that.
Well, no, they never aired it.
I must have. I'm sure I read about it because I'm a '70s kid who grew up with Charlie's Angels, so John Forsythe. I paid it.
Well,
paid attention to what Charlie was doing.
For whatever reason, they decided not to go with George Papard. The best thing that could have happened was hiring John, because he was just fantastic as Blake.
So good as Blake. You all were perfectly cast. I want to read what a fan wrote. Cherie Calvert wrote, I had the pleasure of meeting John on the set of Dynasty over 35 years ago when I was only 8 years old. Please tell him I say thank you for his kindness and for taking a picture with me.
Oh.
That's incredible.
You're welcome. 35 years later.
Wow. What did you love about playing Jeff?
Well, we'll talk about this later, but we have a show that we're doing. What I loved about Jeff, first of all, I had to figure out how to keep a nice guy interesting. That's really one of the hardest roles to play.
They usually don't survive, really. Nice
how do
guys.
You keep them interesting?
Yeah.
It's easy to play a villain or someone, not that Gordon had an easy role as Adam, Gordon Thompson. you know, when you're evil, you're always scheming. Or Rick Decker. I mean, it was just like, oh, this is a piece of cake. When I did All My Children, I was playing Jeff Martin. It was like, oh dear, this is really, there's nothing here. There ain't nothing here, baby. Because, I mean, I was working with Susan, which is wonderful. However, there was nothing for me to do really, other than to just be a nice guy.
Mm-hmm.
But so that was the hardest thing to do. And what I liked about, I noticed everybody, even John Forsyth to a certain extent, the only other person was maybe Linda. Linda and I were the good people. And I loved playing Jeff because he was so earnest, so idealistic. So he had everything monetarily that anyone could ever want. He was rich. He's probably famous. But one thing he did not have is a family, a life like that. So that made it interesting for me to play.
Would have been interesting, you know, the characters from Dynasty, the Carringtons and the Colbys, in today's world of social media and fame, what that would have added to that, you know. You know, in some respect, you guys were innocent because there wasn't that, you know.
Well, you know, you got to think about it. When paparazzi took photos of you, let's say, they had to rush develop them.
Yes.
And if they could do a color fax, which were pretty bad, then they'd have to FedEx them to overseas. And then, I mean, it was just like days would go by before now anybody can take a picture and it's up on the internet. But I got to tell you, I mean, there are good things and bad things. At the time, we were canceled. Dynasty was canceled with 29 million people watching it. 29. And our biggest audience was 55 million. And that was the season 6, I believe, beginning of season 6, the post-Moldavian massacre. When
I knew you were going to say it was the massacre. It had to be.
Yeah. And they all wanted to see who died.
Yeah, who died, who survived.
Nobody was even injured or dirty.
Yeah. Adam Z just said, greetings from Poland. I have loved Dynasty all my life. I've heard you tell this story, but please share it again. Meeting Joan Collins at the commissary and what she asked you.
Well, I remember I was just starting out. I had signed a contract to do 10 out of 13 shows. So it wasn't even really a series regular. I was a reoccurring, they call it. However, I think I don't know how many I did. I think I did like 10. Maybe I did them all. I don't know. But yeah, so
that first season, it was only 10 out of supposed to be.
Yes, but I think I did them all. Minimum is what they said. And I remember we were looking for someone to play Alexis because the scene where Alexis is first introduced is a body double, where she walks in, and you just see the back of her hat. So I'm driving down Sunset Boulevard, and I look up and I go, oh, that's the lady they hired, Joan Collins. The bitch is back. A big billboard.
Oh, there was a big billboard?
And she's got the whip out, and she's in leather. I didn't know who Joan was, but I did then. So I'm having lunch, and she walks up and sits down next to me. And she introduces herself. Hi, I'm Joan Collins. I'm from London, and I'm playing Alexis. And I said, hello, I'm John James, and I'm playing Jeff Colby. Nice to meet you. And without missing a beat, she goes, how much money are you making? I said, what? How much are you getting an episode? I said, well, how much are you getting? She didn't answer that. But we became friends at that second, still today. And I can't tell you the wonderful, wonderful Hollywood nights I had. I'd ride my Harley over to Joan's place up on Cabrillo Drive off Crescent. Heights, right? Yeah, Crescent Boulevard or whatever it is.
Yeah, Crescent Boulevard, I think.
And I'd walk in there, and Jackie, her sister, would be there, and there'd be Roger Moore, and sometimes Elton John, if he's in town, would be there. And Irving Moore, who was our #1 director, I think he did 60 shows. Wonderful guy.
Oh, wow.
He'd be there. Sidney Poitier would be there sometimes. And we'd have these just cocktail dinner parties, very casual nights, singing with Elton till 4 o'clock in the morning. And yeah, we became very close. I was there when I was in the house with Peter Holmes when she went through the divorce with Peter. Remember that?
I remember. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, that was big paparazzi stuff.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, that was big because of, Dynasty fame. Crazy.
Yeah. But yeah, she's and my hats for anybody listening here today. Joan is not Alexis. She is a loving mother and who has continued to support her family and herself for, I don't know, 70 years as an actress. And she's working now and she's almost 90. So, and it's a tough business and you got to be tough. But as a human being, she's a delight. She really is. She's very funny, but she's also very English too. So you got to take it with a grain of salt.
The fans would kill me if I don't ask about your two Fallons, Pamela Sue and Emma Samms.
Well, I mean, Pamela Sue Martin was just perfect as that character. There's no doubt. She created Fallon.
Yeah, and was cast. It was created. Yeah,
sort of flippant, just nasty, and just self-absorbed, and that's what I knew. We had a chance early on. I'm not sure if it was the first or second season. I had a scene with her where I come out of the bathroom and I just showered, and she was sitting at her makeup table getting dressed. And she tells me that she wants to have an abortion, right? And it was like I was living my fantasy. It was like an old Hollywood movie because I had a towel around my waist and she stands up. Actually, where is it?
Oh, is it up on the wall?
See that picture?
Yeah.
And I have a towel over my shoulder and I'm grabbing her hair like this. And I'm essentially saying, look, I have, I'm the father and I have a say in this. And it was just a great scene, just well written, fun to play. And after that, I said, yep, I think we got a shot here because that's pretty hot stuff.
And isn't it crazy that was the 80s and we were even allowed to be talking about abortion on television?
Well, yes, that's why Dynasty today still resonates as a show. We hear that from the people who've seen the show that we're doing now. Dynasty at the time, Stephen was the first.
Oh yeah, right.
First gay character.
As a gay man, I remember that vividly.
And you got to remember, Blake killed him.
Yeah,
his lover, right, with a fire pit thing.
I totally forgot that until you just said that. Wow.
And that was John Forsythe.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that. We also had Diane Carroll playing the first ultra wealthy Black woman who could go toe to toe with Joan Collins. All right.
And she was a Carrington, right? Wasn't she half?
Yeah.
I think Diane was, right. Yeah. So she, it was a interracial.
Yep. Yeah.
Child.
It was just a whole bunch of stuff that they were pushing buttons with. And that's why I think the Dynasty, even, 40 years ago, we went on the air, 40 years, still resonates with a lot of people. I mean, I'm doing a project, believe it or not, overseas in Turkey. All right. I have an agent overseas and she submitted me and I did a Zoom call with the director and they said, oh, of course, Dynasty was so huge in our country. I said, what? Oh my gosh, it's just a cameo role. It's only a couple of days worth of work. It's a 6-part series. So looks like I'm going to do it. But here we are all these years later, and it still resonates. Another one, South Africa. We may take the show down to Joburg or Johannesburg and Cape Town. And Dynasty was one of the few shows that was on the air during apartheid, and it had just a huge impact in its rerun still today all over the world.
It's incredible. You mentioned going with Goutman to the Broadway show, but I'm curious, you sign on to Dynasty, the show, skyrocketed to fame and #1. When, personally to you, did you truly realize the impact it was, having, the fame or where your anonymity disappeared overnight?
It's funny, when you're a young actor, all you want is that fame. All you want is that recognition. All you want is to sign autographs. And losing it, it's funny you say anonymity, because I was saying no one is prepared in life to lose one's anonymity. And I remember I was in Germany and I had the day off. I actually was touring. I had a record in German. Ich geb dir Wärmen, liegt du nächste Sterne. And it was probably, I think, top 10. It sold in German. So I was on tour doing all these shows. And I went to Liechtenstein, I think, because I was buying antiques for my home I was building. And I was really tired. And I had jet lag, and I'd been just going from city to city to city every day. And I was so looking forward to this moment. And somebody spotted me in Liechtenstein. And it was like the Pied Piper. There was maybe a couple hundred people following me down these cobblestone narrow streets. And I just said to Nick at the time, who was with me, Pamela Sue's manager, actually, I said, let's just go back to the hotel. I got to rest. I got to rest. I was doing a play in Akron, actually summer stock. I did a lot of summer stock during the summer, and I was doing Promises, and having women pounding on your door at 3:00 in the morning, drunk. I mean, it sounds today, that sounds pretty good, but
yeah,
it's,
wow.
And as I said earlier, with our audience, there were only 3 networks: ABC, NBC, CBS. All right. That was it. And that was all you had, other than going out to the movies or go see a stage show. So television was very powerful back then. And when you're into your 5th season and you're #1 over all of the television, and the fact that Dynasty, I don't know, when you have, Andy Warhol talking about how it's just marvelous. You know what I mean? But then there were nice things, like when you want to go to the clubs when you come into New York City. You're right in there on
the doors open.
Right there, and you're sitting with Halston and great Halston, and that whole group. I forget the name of the club, but yeah, when I'd come to New York, it was fun. I had a great time.
What are some of your favorite memories of the period?
The 80s?
Of the Dynasty period,
Oh gosh, I have so many, Alan. I think becoming #1 was great.
Do you remember how finding that out? Like, did Aaron call? Like, I'm curious, like back then.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We all working for Aaron too, by the way. Aaron, I call him the Samuel J. Goldwyn of television, or Louis B. Mayer of television, because no one produced as much television as Aaron did. At the time, he had 6 shows on the air on ABC, I believe. And he was wonderful to work with, and he was our cheerleader. And yes, we all either got a telegram. I have something somewhere around here, Dynasty #1. They'd always send us little gifts, little tchotchkes to keep us happy. And I think, but my favorite memory, I think, probably would be Oh gosh, I think it would probably be okay. The strongest memory I have, and I talk about this, is um, my last day on the show.
Really?
Now I've been doing it. I started with George Papard in '79. Now this is '89, so 10 years, a decade. And I think I mentioned to you, I did as Jeff Colby as a character the most shows, one more than John,
Yeah, love that.
because I shot the original pilot, and John stayed through the show. Even though I left Dynasty for 2 years to do the Colbys, I still was playing Jeff Colby. So I think my strongest memory is my final day. And I remember I very meticulous with my wardrobe, always hung it up, never threw my stuff around. And I'd hang my shirt up, hung my suit up, and walked to my dressing room door. And I turned around and I looked and I saw, this is the truth. And I said, goodbye, Jeff Colby, to my suit, because I knew it was, and that's a really wonderful feeling as an actor, that you created someone that's almost alive. I can't tell you how many Fallons I've met. I went to a party here in Nashville, and it was at a studio. I just moved here and I wanted to meet some local people, and it was at a production studio. And I walked up to a fellow, and he had this kind of look on his face, and he was introduced. And he used to work at Paramount in Los Angeles and just moved a few years ago as well. And he's looking at me with this really kind of strange look. And I said, hi, my name is John James. I worked on a show many years ago called Dynasty. He goes, I know who you are. I know who you are. Let me go get my daughter. Fallon.
Oh
Fallon. True story.
That I just can't even picture your face. Yeah.
I fell apart. And I was at down here at a hotel. I checked in when we were looking for homes, and a girl was standing there behind the counter, and she had Fallon at the Marriott. I said, your name's Fallon? She said, yeah. I said, do you know what that's from? You know where your mom got that name? She said, yeah, Dynasty. You know, I'm your father. Your husband. I mean, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it's weird. That's kind of funky, isn't it?
Yeah, it really, but you were just earlier talking about daytime, as well. I mean, it is the power of well written, well-rounded characters that people fall in love with.
Mm-hmm.
And the impact. I mean, here we are, you and I just talking about all your roles, but Dynasty, I mean, all the fans, somebody, I said Poland is watching, the impact. Dynasty was seen around the world.
Yes.
Yes. It's something. Well, talk about, COVID and coming up with Cocktails with the Carringtons.
Well, it was, everybody knows it was pretty bad. I think the entertainment industry got hit really hard because all the theaters shut down, production shut down. There's nothing to do. So I figured, well, I got to do something. And I've always wanted to do a variety show, a nightclub act. And I thought, okay. So I got
hence Dynasty, though. Like you've just always wanted to do a
yes.
nightclub act. Yeah.
I wanted because I've done a lot, not a lot,
Mm-hmm.
certainly enough theater where I love working in front of an audience, and I wanted to try something. So I came up with an idea, and I called Jack Coleman, who played Steven, and Gordon Thompson, who played Adam. And I said, look, I got this crazy idea, guys. I don't know if you want to do it or not, but we'll call it Cocktails with the Carringtons. And it's going to be about 70 minutes, 75 minutes. And we're going to get up and we're going to tell some war stories, and we're going to sing original music about our experience on the show. And about 8 months later, 9 months later, we opened at Oscars in Palm Springs. And recently, we appeared at the Roosevelt Hotel and the Marriott in Los Angeles. And coming up on the 27th of August, we're going to be at the New Vic Theater in Santa Barbara, and possibly Feinstein's the following week at the Nico Hotel in San Francisco. But it's funny. At the Roosevelt, Joan showed up with what's her husband's name? I'm sorry.
It is Peter now, isn't it?
Yeah, it is Peter. Yeah. I was thinking Peter Holmes, but no. Yeah, Joan showed
Percy.
up.
No, Percy.
Percy, that's it.
Percy. Yeah, sorry. I knew it was a P, though. You were right.
Max Caulfield came with Juliet Mills. Pamela Bellwood came, who plays Claudia, because we have a song called "I Claudia" in the show.
I forgot Claudia.
Yeah, Claudia. Who else? Susan Blakely, Patrick Sainsbury. So we had a number of interesting
Wow.
people in the house.
Here's a little.
We loved it. It was probably one of the best shows I've ever seen. Yeah. I haven't smiled so much in 3 years.
We actually got kind of emotional.
Did you enjoy the songs?
Oh,
Didn't we used to be on the show Dynasty, a show called Dynasty.
I love that. I just saw my friend Gregory Martin's name up there. Love Gregory.
And I spoke with Gregory on the phone, and he told me he did your show. Is that right?
He did, yes.
Yeah.
He's a good guy.
Great guy.
Talented as well.
Great guy. Yeah. So we're actually going to be meeting, I think, at some point this year out in Los Angeles about possibly doing something together. So we'll see.
You know, somebody just wrote, my Drock 26 says, you have a great voice. Have you ever done voiceover work? I was just thinking, I mean, you have a voice that your father must have had. I mean, you have a radio voice.
Well, thank you. Have I done? Yes, I just sent in an audition the other day. It's just jump in line with everybody else. Yeah, I do. I have, and will continue to, I hope.
Do you have a dream role you'd still love to play, a stage role or a film role?
Yeah, I have one that I can't tell you about because we're creating it now.
Oh, awesome. Good.
But it's a very high concept. I think a winner. Actually, I sent it out to Gregory. Before I sent it, he told me that he had so much to do, one of them being the Bay, and he's got some other things. But yeah, if this thing comes to fruition, I would be very happy being able to play this role.
That's awesome. Gregory, I mean, he works nonstop.
Yes, he does.
He works nonstop. You know, Dynasty, you were talking and naming all these incredible people, but then you get a spinoff, your own, for the Colbys, working with.
I hate to tell this. Well, I'm going to tell you the story, even though it's a big part of the show, and it's quite funny because we have a slide that comes up. But hopefully, people will come and see the show anyway. But
I think they will.
What happened with the Colbys is this: it was originally going to be Pamela Sue Martin and myself, and Pamela Sue ended up leaving the show. And about 2 years later, my agent called me at the Morris office and said they want to redo. They want to float the Colbys. I said, really? And I said, that's great. He said, yeah, but it's not all great. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, you're going to get star billing. I said, well, that's good. Star billing on a network show? Can't get any better than that. I said, what's the downside? He said, they're going to roll your salary back 2 years because they were supposed to do it 2 years ago. I said, hold on, Fred. I said, wait a minute. The show is the #1 show in television. They're asking me to take a pay cut, leave that show, and go on to an unknown quantity. Is that correct? He said, yeah. He said, they said, live by your contract. Live by your contract. I said, all right, let's do it. I mean, it can't be that bad. I mean, I'm still making good money. And he agreed. Yeah, he could start billing in a network show. Nothing wrong with that. 2 weeks later, he calls me. He says, John, we got a huge problem. I said, what's the problem now? They just signed Charlton Heston. They have a signed contract with Charlton Heston. I said, what do you mean? He said, the billing. What do you mean the billing? He said, they're all flipping out about the billing. I said, well, it's the Colbys, starring John James, and then half size way in the bottom on the right-hand corner with Charlton Heston. He said, you're kidding, right? I said, no. My name is going to be center, huge. And this is going to be a little thing on the bottom right corner. Tell Aaron to live by his contract. True story. So Freddie went down to Aaron's office, and Aaron said, how hard are you going to squeeze him? And he said, John just said, pay him what he'd be making on Dynasty. That's it. So Charlton Heston can get star billing, and I'll be on the second card. But crazy. But yeah, the Colbys was great. I mean, what a cast. Well, one, we moved from, at the time, it was called Warner Hollywood, or no, Samuel Goldwyn Studios at Santa Monica and Formosa, which didn't even have a commissary. We had a catering truck that would show up. I don't know if they have that today. So here I am at Paramount, and, you know, I run into William Shatner doing Star Trek, you know, Battle of the Network Stars. He was my captain, you know, when he was doing TJ Hooker. I mean, it was just, Paramount's such a lovely, lovely studio. And our cast, Barbara Stanwyck, and, you know, Barbara Stanwyck, I mean, she was superstar in the 40s and 50s, and she's playing my grandmother.
And you, being an old, who likes old movies.
I went to Nolan Miller's house one night, and Ginger Rogers, Esther Williams, and Barbara Stanwyck were sitting on the couch, and Barbara goes, JJ, get over here. Sit down. So here I am, and here's Ginger Rogers. Here's Barbara, and she's telling me all about, you know, you got to stop smoking. You're just like my ex, Robert Taylor, and I told you. And I'm just going, wow. I'm just like soaking this up like a sponge. Back to the Colbys, Catherine Ross playing my mother. She's only like 13 years, 12 years older than me. And I remember one day, we're on this set, right? And it's Catherine and I, and it's an emotional scene. And I said, okay, quiet on the set. All right, speed, ready. I said, cut. I said, and I looked at the director and I said, am I supposed to be feeling this way about my mother? I mean, she was gorgeous, beautiful. She was, you know, Catherine Ross playing my mother, and I was 12 years younger than she is. But yeah, Catherine, Ricardo Montalban,
Stephanie, right?
Stephanie Beacham, Maxwell Caulfield, Tracy Scoggin.
I forgot about Tracy.
Yeah,
wow.
Tracy, and then Michael Parks, who was sort of he had a series in the 70s. It was quite big. He was kind of like a Jimmy Dean kind of a character. He was on it. Yeah, it was a big deal. I think our flower, Doug Kramer, what he spent on floral arrangements is what probably a reality show budget is per show today. I mean, just incredible flower in the sets and everything. It was just fantastic. But like anything, they pushed the envelope with the alien sequence with Emma Samms flying up into space.
I don't remember that.
That was the last show of the Colbys.
How many seasons did that last?
2 seasons. We did I think over 50 shows because we used to do 25 to 27 shows back in a season. Yep, I know that.
I mean, actors today have no clue who do streaming. It's like 10 episodes, 8 episodes.
That's it.
You did 22 to 25 for
Oh, easy. And on single camera Panavision, no video tap. So that camera operator, I mean, I tell young actors today, I know we're running out of time. I tell young actors today how important it is to hit marks. Because back then, if you were on a close-up and you're walking into your close-up, if you're out by 8 inches or 9 inches, you're out of focus. So they would draw a tape measure and go right to your nose. Okay, is that where you're going to be? Yeah. Okay. And then he would go and mark that on the lens. And the guy would pull focus. And when you hit your mark, or that little red tape on the ground, he would pull that focus to where he had measured it on the tape measure. And I said, I don't care how good of an actor you are, but if you're out of focus, they can't use it. And that's why, you know, the director is it good for you? And he'd have to ask that of the operator, the camera operator, if he was in focus or not. And if you couldn't hit your mark, they'd sandbag you, where they'd actually lay down a bag of sand and you would put your toes against the bag, you know, the bag of sand.
Do you teach now?
Huh?
One of the fans was asking, do you teach now?
You know, it's funny. This afternoon I don't, but I'd like to. I mean, just because I enjoy sharing what I've learned, and I'd like to just because it would be very satisfying for me to give tips that took me years to know.
Yeah.
And to help actors. I tell actors today, I think the most important thing, as you mentioned my voice, for young actors is diction. I mean, American actors today are losing out a lot of jobs to English actors because they can speak with distinction, which is a book I had to study, Edith Skinner's Speak with Distinction. And so I think just diction is an important thing. And give away regionalism in your voices, in your speech, so you can be available for more roles rather than just Southern or Boston or New York or what have you, or California even has its own sound. But yes.
Are you great? Yeah. Yeah, you'd be amazing because you keep saying like things you share with people, and I'm sure just from people you meet. Are you grateful for those 2 years on Search in how it helped you? You know, not just getting Dynasty without that experience prior.
I fell back on the experience I had on Search for Tomorrow so many times, I can't tell you, because you work under pressure doing a soap. It's a wonderful thing. And Chris said, would you please do this? Because he knew I can't do another soap now. I mean, you know, maybe a very limited one, but it is brutally hard work. I mean, I remember
because you were talking seriously. You were talking about what As the World Turns was doing back when you were on, and fast forward 15 years now, they're even going faster than they were then.
It's amazing. I mean, it's amazing. I remember coming back to the apartment. I'd go to the apartment. I'd pop in something in the microwave. I'd pick up the script. I'd study, and I'd be in bed by 8:30. I mean, it's an amazing thing to be able to do that, to think that series take 8 to 10 days to shoot a script. And in one day you're shooting an hour show. One day.
And they get a bad rap.
Well, they do. I mean, briefly. Back in my day, back in the 80s, if you did theater, you couldn't do any television. If you did daytime, you couldn't do nighttime. If you did nighttime TV, you couldn't do feature films. True. I mean, it was just like this. Oh, you do nighttime? I do features. Oh, you do theater? Well, you're too broad for TV. Those were the rules. But I got to tell you, any actor I think worth his salt went through went through that cannon fodder of being on a soap. Because, man, you got to think on your feet. You got to deliver a performance. You got to make it believable. You got to know your lines. You got to hit your marks. It's all that stuff, and that's just really tough.
It really is. And you know, if you can make it in daytime, you really can do anything, especially today. Like if you can,
it's a piece of cake. If anything, you would be like, oh my gosh, when are they going to shoot this?
Yeah.
I'd have 10 pages done by now. You're in the trailer going.
Yeah, totally. Oh my God, John, this has been so fun.
It has been, Alan.
Such a. I really hope you get to bring Cocktails with the Carringtons to the East Coast. For anybody watching, there is a link on my YouTube page for the August 27th show if you want to buy tickets. My friend, stay well. I hope to see you on the East Coast sometime soon.
When I do come up to New York, we will be having drinks.
Please.
With a
yeah.
Colby.
I'll take it for sure. Right. John, be well.
Thanks, Alan. Thanks for having me on.
You're so welcome. Stay healthy. Talk to you soon. Bye. Thanks everybody for joining us today. So fun catching up with John. Like I said, if you want to see Cocktails with the Carringtons, visit my YouTube page for the show and click the link. Please tune in tomorrow when The Young and the Restless's Emmy Award-winning actress Beth Maitland joins me live. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't done so. Turn on the notifications for all upcoming shows. And don't forget, you can download audio versions of The Locker Room. Go to your favorite streaming platform and search The Locker Room. Have a great evening, everyone, and please, please stay safe.